Well, good evening and good afternoon and good day, folks. This is Doug with the Checking the Gate podcast, and we have back our expert Toy Story consultant. Introduce yourself.
This is Leaminn Ma.
Welcome back to the show, Leaminn.
Yes, I'm excited.
How you feeling?
I'm excited to finally review my favorite movie of the Toy Story trilogy, the third one, Toy Story 3.
Don't you get it? We're finished. Obsolete. Over the hill.
Come on. Let's see how much we're going for on eBay.
New toys!
I'm gonna get played with.
Did you fix Buzz?
Bitácora espacial.
Sort of.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. Return of the Astronaut.
Yeah, we're getting right into it. Yeah, Toy Story 3. This was many years after the second Toy Story, not just like in the timeline of the movies, but actually in real life. There was 11 years since Toy Story 2. It was 1999, I'm pretty sure.
Yes, since Toy Story 2, and the first one came out in 1995.
Yeah, so that's like
wow.
15 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a pretty big stretch of time. I remember when I first watched this, I was in film school. It wound up being quite a topic of conversation while I was in school because I had to rave about the movie. I remember there was a couple of movies that came out that year that I was just like, I was so into, and Toy Story 3 was one of them. The other one that I can think of off the top of my head was Inception.
Yeah.
And so it was a good year. Yeah, do you remember the first time you watched Toy Story 3?
Oh, definitely. I was so excited for it, and I watched it in theaters. I didn't wait for it to come out on peer-to-peer sharing.
Yes. It's that entirely legal means of watching films.
So it was perfect to me when I watched it in theaters. It really was. It was just such a good way for the trilogy to end, and although we're not sure if it's, ending for sure.
I keep hearing rumors about a Toy Story 4, but
yeah.
Do you remember, like, what was your kind of mindset when you were going into the film? Like, I know that you liked the first two movies, obviously, because we talked about that in the last few episodes. But, like, what were your expectations, let's say, of Toy Story 3?
I think I had already heard from several friends that it was really good, but most of them actually didn't spoil it for me. And I watched it quite early on, so I wasn't able to get any spoilers.
Good, because, the fewer the spoilers, the better. That's what I say.
And I didn't watch the trailer either.
Good
so
call.
it was really just go into the theaters and hope for the best. And I had heard that it was probably the final one, so I was just wondering how they would end it going into it.
I know that there's a lot of movies these days that are being made where it's a sequel after like a long time since the previous movie. For example, I think the record holder, or at least it used to be, was Tron versus Tron Legacy. Tron came out in I think 1982, and Tron Legacy came out, I think, also 2010, actually. So when there's a long gap, as there is 11 years with Toy Story, there's certain expectations that an audience has, okay, you're coming back, you have to be up here,
right?
in order to meet where I'm at, because I've had to wait this long. Where have you been? And I hope you've been making a damn good script. So I feel like I kind of went in with an open-minded skepticism, I think. It's okay, can they actually match what it is that I'm hoping for? I'd like to think that I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised as well. And there were several moments in there that got me really emotional, and I was thinking, oh my god, did they actually do that, right? We'll get to that in a bit, but there was those moments where I was just really surprised that they pulled it off.
Definitely. So yeah, as we were saying, that not only it was a long time us waiting in theaters, but let's get into those plot synopsis a little bit. It's been a long time since the events of Toy Story 2. As I think it was we mentioned in the last episode as well of Toy Story 2, is that it seems like that movie only took place like a year or so after the original Toy Story.
Mm-hmm.
Where this one is,
like,
I think it's basically 10 years.
Yeah, I think
about
it's
10 years, because
he must have been like 7 or 8 when he was playing with those toys. So
I think the first Toy Story, it was Andy's 6th birthday, I think.
oh, okay, yeah,
But
then
I
it
might
makes
be
sense.
wrong. And in this show, he's 17.
Right, of course.
So
About to go to college.
He's about to go off to college. He's graduated. He's moving on. So there you go. That's where Andy's at in life. And the toys, as a result, have been sadly neglected. They are in their toy chest, but that's where they've been staying for the last, probably since he's been a teenager, because he's outgrown
Once
toys.
those hormones get, let go, you stop thinking about, those kind of innocent toys.
You start thinking about talking with your friends, getting drunk. Although Andy seems like a good clean kid, and chasing girls, man.
Yeah, of
He
course.
wants to chase girls.
Although on that topic, can you just imagine that if, Andy had lost his virginity in front of his toys, that would have been hilarious.
They're like, my mom's not home, and then Woody's like, oh my god, I think I can't watch this.
Yeah, exactly.
But here I am on the desk. She's like, what's the cowboy? He's like, no, don't talk about the cowboy, just.
Yeah, can you just imagine what's
like,
going
I'm
through their
boned.
minds? They're like, do they understand what's happening?
Well, they seem like very bright, very adult toys.
Yeah.
Well, not adult toys.
No, not adult toys.
That's neither here nor there.
This became a very adult show.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Yes,
we
yeah.
won't get too explicit here. But anyways, oi. Now that Andy's moving to college, they're cleaning up the house a bit because Molly's going to get his room, and that means that the toys they're going to be moving on one way or another, which means they're either going into the attic or going with Andy to college. But no one's gonna take their toys to college.
Or being donated.
Or being donated to a daycare.
Yeah.
Daycare. Sunnyside.
Sunnyside, yeah.
Sunnyside Daycare. Oh dear, oh boy. So there's a bit of a miscommunication and a mishap. Andy means to put all the toys, except for Woody, who he's actually going to take to college. He accidentally, he's going to take them to the attic, but his mom mistakes the bag and throws them in the garbage. But the toys manage to escape, but they wind up willingly going into the Sunnyside Daycare donation box, where they end up. But and Woody joins them to try and explain the miscommunication. And encourages them to go back to Andy's house for time in the attic. Mm-hmm. But Sunnyside Daycare is not what they think it is. It is not the Paradise Dreamland. It is a prison. Mm-hmm. And I think we can leave the plot synopsis at that. Okay, well, Leaminn, let's get into what did you like the most? What aspect of Toy Story 3 did you like? What stands out to you?
Oh my goodness, there are so many good things. I love that by this time the relationships between the toys are already quite established. We got to know them in the first and second movie. So by the third movie, their interactions just seem very natural, very fun, and we love when Ham or Mr. Potato Head make a snide remark or something. It's hilarious.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the characters, we feel very comfortable with them.
Yeah.
Like they're old friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course having Jessie there as part of the gang was a nice addition to their little tight-knit group that it became.
A little more Barbie in this one, or a Barbie that Molly owned. And again, we're back to Ham, who I love Ham. Barbie gets thrown into the donation bin, and Ham's first response, I get the Corvette.
I love that so much.
You goon. And it's great because it's like, it is a nice sort of moment with old friends where it's like, oh, that's so classic Ham,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great
His
aspect
perfect
of it.
insensitive remark at the right moment.
Yeah, like...
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a great way of putting it. The perfect insensitive remark.
Yes, exactly. I love that moment. What about you?
This story, better than almost any movie, really. How well it kind of blends the comedy and the drama. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of humor in this, especially during like the prison breakout, like with Mr. Potato Head being turned into a tortilla shell. Yeah, again with a lot of Ham's quips and stuff like that. Like there's a lot of really good humor in it, but also like there's a really very like human story about loneliness and rejection that we get from the from the toys. Like, these are characters that we empathize with greatly because we're so familiar with them. Like, they are like old friends, but they're not living the life that they wanted to. Or, I mean, they kind of are. Because basically at the end of Toy Story 2, Woody's like, well, it's going to be a great ride seeing Andy grow up. And at the very beginning of Toy Story 3, he's kind of eating those words. Because like they feel like, oh, God, like the time has come. It's sort of a story about getting old and losing.
Right, which kind of brings us into like the themes of it, really.
I've already transitioned accidentally right into like the deeper stuff.
Yeah.
The deeper meat of Toy Story 3. Yeah, it's a story about getting old and friendships fading away. Oh God, it's so sad.
Yes, again, just like in our last podcast, we were talking about how like everything's so ephemeral in life, right? And nothing lasts, and how we're just kind of depressed about it. But what's really stuck out for me is the notion that once you reach a certain age, you're supposed to act a certain way. So, like, when he was a kid, it was totally fine to play with toys, but then once he's 17, well, probably earlier than that, it was suddenly not okay in society for him to play with toys. And it's like, what if he still is, I know that when you're growing up, you have to have a certain maturity, you got to get your finances and all that, but what is it that makes us think, well, you can't use your imagination for those kind of toys anymore? Right? What if you were making all your bills, getting your life together, but at the same time you just love playing with your action figures or something?
Yeah, Andy, don't let the man tell you what to do.
Right. But I always, I've always pondered about, why is it that we impose such a restriction on how you're supposed to act at a certain age, right? And that it really pressures people to change or like get something done or whatever before a certain age, and it like totally makes you feel rushed as though you have no more time left.
You can sort of see that in Andy's interactions with Molly when she comes into his room and she's like, why do you still have these stupid toys? And he like does a defense thing where like, get out of my room. But like that kind of speaks volumes about like, he's like, because I love them, like because I'm not ready to give them up.
Yeah, why is it embarrassing? Why do we impose that?
He didn't want to say like it's like because I am not ready to lose these toys. They mean too much to me. So he just like, get out of my room, and it's a very like sibling of a sibling interaction.
Yeah, but and at the same time we also see Molly, who's like too old for Barbies now. She's got to put on like nail polish and
Tween
makeup
magazine
and stuff.
she was reading.
Yeah, and like it's not. Yeah, tween magazines. It's not a popular thing among her other tween friends to play with toys. It's all about beauty and makeup and stuff now. So we really get hit hard in the face with the idea of being at certain stages of your life and having to like kind of conform with the society's ideas of where you should be at.
I kind of like connect a little bit with that because I think another thing like with it about being like friendships that kind of fade is that I feel like here I am like moaning about being old is that like with a lot of the friends I have that I had for a very long time, the friendships are kind of like fading away because people have gotten really busy. Just like Andy, he's busy. He's got a cell phone. He's got his friends. He's got his college coming up, and like with me, I'm having friends who are having kids now, and they just don't have the time that they used to. They're just like for me to just ring them up, go, hey, you want to hang out?
Yeah.
And then like, you kind of can't leave the kids alone with the wife.
You know what? It really is sad because the way we go through society, eventually we do kind of limit our interactions to just our immediate family, which is usually just like your spouse or your own kids or something. Your mom and dad maybe, and then your sister or brother. But really it becomes so isolated into like this little world that just having like a big crowd of friends and hanging out all the time kind of diminishes over time.
Yeah, it just isn't how society evolves, which is unfortunate because I mean I like my friends.
Yeah, me too.
I don't want to, but anyway.
Yeah, and I don't want to be like relying on my spouse or something to be the one person that will be with me for the rest of my life. I mean, I need some backups, right?
It's healthy to have long-lasting friendships and new friendships and other relationships your significant other can't be your soul world.
I mean, they can definitely feel that way, but then, I mean, you should definitely have more of a... Well, I guess not definitely, but I would personally prefer more of a social life. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. This has already gotten really deep, and we're not even 20 minutes in, and we're like, oh god, this is already emotionally exhausting.
Well, this is why I love talking about Toy Story 3. It brought up so many things for me.
Another thing I liked about the film, finally watching like the Toy Story movies back to back the way I have now, like kind of within a condensed amount of time, I noticed a significant improvement in the animation. It just looked gorgeous because Pixar at this point, they had tons of films under their belt. This was after WALL-E, I want to say.
Yeah.
And after Ratatouille. Anyway, yeah, they had a string of a lot of really
after
great.
Finding Nemo.
Yes, well, after Finding Nemo as well. So like they've had a lot of practice, and so like it really shows. It feels polished. Like the characters don't look like much of a departure from the visual style of the previous films, but it just looks a lot cleaner, and especially the humans. The humans.
I think, of course the lighting and the shadowing has improved. But overall, it's funny that they still look basically the same because they're toys and they have a very flat look to them, no matter what, right? And that one of the smartest things about using toys as the main characters in an animated film, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at this point they're not limited to like, okay, how are we gonna make this look okay? Oh, let's make them toys. It's just sort of like, well, let's bring these characters back and make them look as good as 2010 animation can look.
Yeah, exactly. And of course the humans looked way better. Like,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Significantly.
Way significant. I mean, I didn't expect them to look like realistic. They're still cartoony, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of something I appreciate about that movie. They're not trying to make them look like, real humans with, like, scruffy beards and, like, hair that flows everywhere.
I think a lot of animation learned from that mistake because of movies like Final Fantasy, The Spirits Within, where they just looked too realistic, but not realistic, so they kind of weirded people out. Also, another one was the, people complained a lot about the Polar Express.
Oh, yeah.
And how, like, they, the people, they looked real, but they didn't really look real, so it was kind of weirded people out. So I think Pixar cued in a lot with movies like The Incredibles, where they're like, okay, we can make them look like cartoon characters.
Right, but, 3D, of course.
Yeah. And you can definitely see that in Up as well, which was just the year before this, where, like, the old man in Up, his head was like a square, but
pretty much.
But so he looked like a cartoon character, but he looked good. Like he was a well animated cartoon character.
Yeah, unless they can make them look perfectly real, it's really not a good thing to do that in animation.
Well, also just because like at its heart, it is a kids film as well.
Yeah.
Like it is supposed to be a cartoon, so trying to make it look real, there's no point.
Yes.
It's better to have it look like a cartoon.
Yes.
I have a very difficult question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you didn't like about Toy Story?
Every single time.
Yeah, I know.
It's always the hardest. Didn't like about Toy Story 3.
Yeah.
It ended too soon. Actually, honestly, it was actually perfectly timed, so I can't even say that.
It felt like the story had played out perfectly.
Yeah, it played out perfectly. It wasn't too long. It wasn't too short. It was, like, perfect. Okay, what didn't I like?
Okay, I'll try mine. I'll let you think a little more if you want.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I mean these again, I feel like they're nitpicking things. Like I don't feel that strongly about them. I understand why they were there and they're just like service the story. And I also feel like I'm kind of echoing myself a little bit from previous Toy Story podcasts. Mm-hmm. I felt Spanish Buzz very funny. I give them that, very funny. A little gimmicky, a little sort of like for a movie that was as sort of like taking itself very maturely. It was sort of like a bit out of place in how goofy it was. I mean, one could argue that it's to help balance it out because at its heart it is a kids movie. They probably want to lighten the mood a little bit, but I just feel like they didn't have to make Spanish Buzz happen. I don't hate that it happened. I laughed, so it worked for me.
Yeah, it's a
to some
good
degree,
gag, but I understand. It's a little bit not.
And also, they kind of wrapped that story up a little too conveniently. A TV falls on him, and he's suddenly back to like regular Buzz. It's like, hey man, that's your way out of that. But all in all, a minor quibble. That's one thing.
Well, you never hit a TV and it started to work again. See, so that's why I can kind of believe that Spanish Buzz. He just came out
whack
of it.
him around a little bit.
Yeah,
okay. Maybe you're right. Yeah, true enough. Percussive maintenance is what it's called, right? You just give it a good whack, and look at that, it works again. So I guess that works for Buzz Lightyears as well, not just televisions. I guess I could also complain a little bit about Lotso being kind of at times an irrational jerk. I mean, I guess I get it. He's got this, this sad backstory and everything, but like, particularly near the end, when they're getting there, the incinerator, and he's just sort of like, they go to all that trouble to save his life, and then he just kind of like, at the end, he kind of gives them the middle finger. He's like, ah ha ha ha. It's sort of like, man, Lotso, like what's your problem?
Right. Although I think that actually worked for the story. I mean, yeah, you're right. He's someone that you can't like, right? But I think it really shows that people who have had a really messed up background can change permanently into someone you would consider evil and someone who has no longer any compassion because of how hurt they were in the past. So I actually think that was really adult and very sad to see that Lotso could not even change his mind even after all these people have helped him. It goes to show how hurt he was.
Bitterness and resentment, it's a dangerous thing to let fester in you.
Yeah. I mean, I think, well, I can't really say that I'm a criminal expert, but a lot of them were driven to do, their bad things because of things in their past. Eventually they kind of lose their mind and can't see it any other way.
Lotso's just a victim of his own festering hatred. Oh, Lotso, we grieve for you. Did you manage to figure out anything that you didn't like? I know this is a hard one. Is this one of your favorite movies?
It is, yeah, of my life.
In like your top 10 or top 5 or top 1?
I would say top 10 probably.
Okay, that's a good place to be.
Yeah.
Every time.
Because it is what it is. I mean, as an animation, you can only be so, profound. You can only be so.
Well, I mean, I think we discovered that the Toy Story films can be strangely profound.
Yeah, they can be.
Yeah.
But that's why it's still part of my top 10 for sure. I mean, I just don't want to, regret saying that it's in my top 5 and be like, oh no, actually it's in 6th place.
Well, this isn't set in stone. We won't make this a list of like once you say it, we have to get it tattooed on your body.
Yeah. No, but honestly, it was just so well animated. It just was so visually perfect for me. The story was so well rounded. It's just all the characters and the personalities are all popping out.
I like that there's it's willing to get a lot darker than the previous movies too, eh?
Oh yeah, that's one of my favorite parts.
Especially the frickin' monkey.
That was creepy as hell.
That whole like prison break with like tying up the monkey and him like watching the cameras, and I'm like, good God, this is kind of scary. This monkey's gonna frighten children.
Yeah.
But it was a real like toy too. Like I don't know, like that was ever considered a good kid's toy.
Oh no, but I think they made the monkey look particularly evil because of the red like markings on the teeth and everything, and like the crazy eyes.
The crazy eyes.
Yeah, the crazy eyes were really crazy. Ooh, but
yeah, man. What are you guys thinking? Making a monkey that scary? Good grief.
Okay.
Okay.
If I were to, this is so nitpicky.
You're welcome to nitpick. That's sometimes that's all you got.
Just more toys, like more interesting toys. I mean, more of them, because I mean, the nice thing is that they had more of a storyline for Barbie and Ken this time.
Yes.
I loved it
That's
much.
a really fun story. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would have wanted to see other popular toys have like more screen time, more interesting things shown, because I love that with Ken, you see that he has this whole wardrobe. He's obsessed with clothes and all that, and he's very metrosexual, and that whole thing is just hilarious because we see that toy that way, and it was just a really nice addition to the movie, and I would really want to see other toys kind of get in on that kind of action.
I actually know what you mean. Specifically, the toys of Bonnie. Bonnie's a little girl. I think her mom works for the daycare. Well, she kind of takes in Woody for a little while. Her toys that she already owns, they seem like interesting characters, but we hardly really get to know them. And it would have been really nice to get a bit of a better flavor of what they were like. There was hints like that purple-haired doll seemed very bright. The porcupine was a thespian, played by, I think, Timothy Dalton. I mean, I guess it's because at this point we have such a great sense of the established characters of Woody and Buzz. So these other characters, they seem kind of flat in comparison. But then again, like, maybe we'll get to see more. I know there have been some Toy Story shorts, like short films. Have you seen any of those? I haven't.
No. But, I mean, it's totally understandable why the other ones kind of aren't as developed. I mean, you only have so much time in a single animated movie, right?
Yeah, true.
And you want to focus on the main characters. So that's, like, just really nitpicky for me to point that out.
Which is fair enough.
You know how the Mr. Potato Head, they used him very creatively by the fact that he can take away his parts and be put into a pita or a cucumber instead of his, body, and therefore he has so many more abilities. And just like Mrs. Potato Head, she left her eye back at their home, and she has like this basically extended vision. It's almost like a power, right?
Yeah.
And I would have liked to see more toys kind of show off how creatively they can use their abilities to go through the story.
Yeah, true.
Or solve a problem.
Yeah, I think we see that the most with Potato Head and Slinky, basically, is that we get to sort of really have them play off of their abilities. Because, yeah, that kind of stuff is really interesting. And it really lends credibility to their characters and the world that they live in. So
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that counts for didn't like. Hey, we did it.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
I got one.
So, whew, that was tough.
So I basically just asked for more.
Yeah. Another thing that I found really interesting for this one was the look at Lotso. Now, Lotso, as much as I complain about him a little bit, I actually find him to be a really interesting character. One of the things that I found, this is kind of getting into the sort of the deeper ideas of the movie. Lotso, he seems like a victim of an abusive relationship in a sense, in that he's kind of become afraid of being in a committed one toy, one child relationship. And this is kind of in the context of the daycare, where there's this discussion about, like you and I even talked a little bit about this earlier today. You don't have to worry about the heartbreak of having a relationship with a child go wrong, because you just go through tons and tons of kids as they go through the daycare and they grow up, and then you get new kids, and then it's this interesting sort of look at sort of like a fear of commitment and a fear of like getting hurt and heartbroken. And yeah, you and I kind of like, we talked a little bit about this earlier today, just kind
about
of...
the fear of being heartbroken.
Yeah, about like, it's always a risk to get into a relationship and to really put yourself out there and give your heart to somebody.
It's a complete risk to open up your heart. And for them, because they know that each kid is temporary, I guess they never quite open it, right? It's always kind of closed, and therefore they're in this constant state of never being hurt.
In a sense, Lotso he's just become extremely promiscuous with children.
Well, that's one way to think about it, yeah.
Metaphorically.
Yeah.
But like, he's just having a good time with tons of children. Oh God, this.
Oh God, this
okay,
isn't
let me reword this, because
this
is sounding worse and worse the more I try. He's just enjoying the company of.
Oh no, that doesn't work either.
Okay. He's being a toy. I can't, there's no way to word this.
No, you know what? There is no word. Okay. Just say it.
So, basically, like, he's not being committed to one child, and and he's just going through a lot of kids as he spends more time at the daycare, and he's sort of lost perspective at the value of putting himself into a committed relationship with a kid.
Yeah, with a single kid.
With a single kid. And that kind of makes him a very empathetic character because, like, I've been burned before myself. I've had very committed relationships. I was married. And it went awry. And it didn't pan out. And so I kind of understand, like, why it's hard to give yourself to another person.
Oh yeah.
It's really hard because you don't want to be hurt like that again. Just as Lotso didn't once. He was replaced as back to kind of like the first Toy Story. Lotso went through with what Woody went through. Only Woody didn't go to the dark side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's similar to the prospector in Toy Story 2 in that it would have been they are basically Woody except Woody in the dark side, right? If Woody had been really screwed up.
I mean, Woody's, as we talked about before, he's remarkably insecure.
Yes.
But he's got such a good heart, and he really loves with all he has. He loves Andy so much, and he loves his friends so much.
It's also that he had such a great support network. So
that's true.
That really attests to how important it is to have people around you supporting you through, like, insecurities or depression or anything. Otherwise, you might fall into the darkness, like the prospector and Lotso.
Lotso the bear.
Yeah. You were talking about the whole fear of commitment thing. Well, I mean, I can totally relate to that, and you will find times in your life where you're just having this sounds bad, but I mean, like, not multiple partners at the same time, but that you're just kind of floating around from one person to another, knowing that you're not giving your heart to anyone, but you just kind of want that, like, short-term intimacy.
The fix.
Yeah, just the fix. The temporary fix for now.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of interesting layers to Lotso, even though he's kind of a big fuzzy jerk. You kind of you see where he's coming from at least, and it's a place of hurt. It's good to have bad guys, antagonists, where you can at least like understand why they went down that path. Kind of like I think we said the same thing with the prospector.
Yeah, in fact, all of the antagonists, I mean, you could really understand throughout all the Toy Story movies, except for Sid. He was just an asshole.
Yeah, Sid.
Yeah, Sid was just an asshole. I mean, we didn't get to know about his background and why he turned into such a punk kid who's just so bad with toys and evil. But he's so young.
Well, to be fair to Sid, he didn't know. He did think that toys were inanimate objects. He did think that they weren't alive because that's their whole...
Although the way he treated them as though they were alive and he was torturing them for fun, that's a little psychotic.
He's definitely got some issues, that's for sure, yeah. But that's okay. Sid, he gets a job. He gets a stable job. I can't remember where I read it, but I read that the garbage man, who goes like, and it like drums on the garbage cans, that is actually Sid all grown up with a nice stable garbage man job.
Yeah, after he was scared into straightening up his life.
It's not flattering work, but it's a decent job, ladies and gentlemen. Let's not look down on garbage men. We need them. Did you notice the difference between Andy's style of playing is actually quite different from Bonnie's style? So like it's interesting that the writers and creators kind of took the time to make the two kids very distinctive. Mm-hmm. There's something very theatrical and very like interactive about the way Bonnie plays, where Andy, I found he played it like they were kind of epic dramas or epic stories, like heist films and stuff like that, as we see in an amazing opening scene with this movie, where it sort of shows the fantasy world of Andy as he's playing with his toys. Mm-hmm. So here's my question to you, Leaminn. Mm-hmm. What was, when you played with toys as a kid, what was your style? How did you play with your toys?
Usually it involved some kind of romance, but
not those toys, Leaminn.
No, but even with like Lego and stuff, if I, choose a partner for one of the Lego pieces, I mean, it would always be like the handsome one versus like the ugly one, and then or the one who has like all the tools and stuff. It usually had to do with like some kind of a conflict, right? You gotta save someone, or like there's a flood happening, or you gotta race somewhere and fight something off, but not really fighting, but more like I don't know. I was a weird kid.
Oh, I mean, hey, you want to talk about weird kids? Yeah, I mean, I was a weird kid too.
Yeah, but
my style, I kind of had to think about it a little bit because it's been quite a while, but I've always been very like storyteller minded. my brother and I, we'd have these very, like, kind of large-scale stories. And so, like, we had a Lego and Playmobil, like, world. We even, like, made a map of like, what the world looked like of all the toys. And we had the Playmobil and the Lego people in a whole city, and they peacefully coexisted. And then they would fight against the, various bad guys. We had a lot of Lego. We had tons of Lego. Also, Transformers, Beast Wars. I had a lot of Beast Wars, and I would basically
I love Beast Wars.
just kind of extend the story of the show and sort of like make an offshoot series essentially, and just like act out that with the toys.
Well, that's pretty creative. I never came up with a full circle story. It was always some kind of scene, and then I get bored of it.
Yeah, I showed a lot of commitment to those stories. Like looking back, I'm like, wow, I was really into that stuff. Yeah, those are the two main things I can remember, is like playing with Transformers, playing with Lego, and creating epic adventures. It was that was kind of my playing style. Now it almost like makes sense when I think about the fact that I really like to write scripts and make stories and I want to make movies. Like it all kind of, the groundwork was there since I was a kid, basically. It's interesting.
That's interesting, because my childhood, basically, when I look back now, I realize I was a really bored kid that would get bored really easily and had to keep switching my activity. And to this day, it's kind of the same thing. I can't really... I get bored super easily.
You're like, I'm going to be an actor. I'm also going to be a singer. I'm also going to be a podcaster.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just I have to constantly do something.
Just be switching up and trying new things.
Yeah.
And that's cool too.
Yeah, because I'm not the type of person who can like work at the same company for 20 years, and I don't understand how our parents' generation did that. Or like every single day, 9 to 5. That would make me go crazy.
I'm not built for that either. And it works great for some people. And they're very happy with the jobs that they get, and then just providing for their family. I can't. It sounds like torture to me to do 9 to 5.
Exactly.
It's just like, just kill me.
I've done it before.
Like, maybe I'll just go be a bum.
Yeah, no, seriously. Like, I'll just be a bum.
Which but it's good. Like that, some people they're okay with that kind of job, and some people aren't, because everyone's different. Different things make different work for different people.
Of course.
And it's always good to find a job that like really sits well with you, and just do something you love.
Well, that's why I love acting, because like, once you're film and TV acting in particular, because once you're finished a production, you go on to a new one. It's like a new project.
Always something to learn. Yeah.
Whereas like that's why I didn't really resonate with like theater as much, because you're rehearsing the same thing so much over and over again. And of course, you're supposed to explore something new and different each time you rehearse it, but then it's the same script, I want to, like, I'm the type of person where it's like, if I finish a scene, I'm done. I want to move on. I'm not going to, like, what's that saying? Beat a dead horse or something?
Yeah, kicking a dead horse.
Yeah, and then if it's done, it's done. I want to move on. I want to change up another script, because I'm bored of this one, and I'm sick and tired of, like, thinking about it.
I like theater, though. I can rehearse scenes over and over again, and I do find a lot of value in it, but I've always had a passion toward film. If I had to pick between the two, definitely I'd be a film actor. So yeah, apparently, let's move on to some production notes. Tom Hanks and Tim Allen, they specifically requested that they record their lines together because they felt that it was important for the chemistry of the characters. And they liked the characters' chemistry so much in the previous movies that they wanted to kind of recapture that, which I think is great. I mean, again, Tim Allen and Tom Hanks continually fight for the integrity of their characters in the story, and they really I think they really believe in Toy Story and really fight for a level of quality.
Yeah, they really bring out the skills as actors through the movie. Yeah, it's almost like they're not playing a voice, they're acting in a legitimate movie that's very important to them, and like a live action movie, I mean.
Which is a great way to be a voice actor, is just to put in just as much work. It comes across on screen. The audience can tell when you're phoning it in, I think.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Last, Jim Varney, who played Slinky the dog in the first two movies, passed away. Actually, I think Slinky the dog in the second Toy Story was one of his very last roles before he passed away. I think the last one that was released before he died. Blake Clark, another comedian who was actually apparently good friends with Jim Varney, took over the role. And I don't know about you, but I couldn't tell. I thought he did a great job subbing in for Jim Varney.
I couldn't tell.
I don't know. He did. He just seemed to really capture the character, really capture the essence. The voice was just really similar. So good job, Blake Clark. I think Mr. Varney would have been very pleased with your performance. Another interesting note is Lotso. Apparently, there was an early version of him in the very first Toy Story, but you only get a glimpse of him in the staff meeting at the very first beginning of that. Woody is like, hey, toys up on the shelf. Hey, how you doing? And then the few toys look down and wave. There's an early version of Lotso in there. And Lasseter wanted to make Lotso a character, but they couldn't get the fur right. So they just had him in that one scene. But now by the time Toy Story 3 came out, they'd mastered fur.
Yeah, actually, now that you mention it, the first one or two movies, it was no fluffy animals.
No,
no
first
fluffy
one,
stuffed animals.
the first great fur that I can remember Pixar doing was Sully from Monsters Inc.
Yes.
That's when you could look at him like, wow, there's a big fluffy animal. Good job, guys.
Yeah.
So after that, I think they had it down, but that was after Toy Story 2. So here's some questions for you, Leaminn. We're diving into your childhood. Is it? You look so sad. You're
No, it's alright.
You're like, not my childhood. What toys was your Woody? As we talk about, man, this episode is just we have a strangely dirty mind today.
Yeah.
But okay, I guess to further explain, there is a scene basically where Andy has to give up his toys at the end, but you can tell like Woody was still very special to him. He didn't want to give up Woody. What toys were you particularly attached to as a kid? What would have been impossible to give up?
This is a hard question because
Oh, no.
I reached a phase in my life where I was so deathly afraid of the dark
Uh-oh.
and I couldn't sleep without the lights blaring at me, that I really hated the idea of stuffed animals or toys or like those weird porcelain dolls staring at me while I slept. So there was a point in my life where I got rid of almost everything.
Oh, really?
I'm serious. And if I did have stuffed animals, there would be somewhere where I couldn't see them while I slept, while I was on my bed.
Oh.
So
you got rid of them all.
yeah, so I didn't really have a toy that I was particularly attached to because I just had such an active imagination. I had such a fear of the supernatural and all that jazz.
Well, that makes me really surprised that you like horror movies so much, like The Conjuring. Like, we watched that together, and you just, like, I mean, why would you want to watch that if you're so, like, sensitive to it?
No. It's because I used to be so sensitive to it. Like, I
Okay.
slept with the lights on until I was 21, but...
Wow.
But now, because my short-term memory is so poor, that once I watch a horror movie, get my kicks out of it, my thrills, I can sleep that night because I forget. And also, you know, as an adult, I just don't have as much of an active imagination at night. It just kind of goes away, and
Yeah,
I'm
that's
too
true.
tired and to really think about anything else. Whereas when I was young, holy crap, did that just go through the roof that I couldn't sleep because I'd be checking for things for like 3 hours straight before I would finally fall asleep out of just pure fatigue.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's another story. Really.
Yeah, okay, well, interesting. Well, for me, personally, I have a lot of toys that I don't want to get rid of. Roger Ebert, when he reviewed this film, he said that Andy's mom makes the cardinal sin of making Andy change his room before he leaves. He says that the secret of a boy who's grown into a man is that he wants his childhood room to be the exact same after he leaves. And I kind of connected with that. I didn't really get that option because after I moved out of my parents' place, they moved. So my childhood bedroom, which changed a lot anyway, was not ever an option to keep around. But there's certain toys that I never want to get rid of. I still haven't gotten rid of them, really. I have again, all my Transformers, my Beast Wars toys, are in a container. I guess they're in storage right now, but I really don't want to get rid of them. I think it's going to come one day where I may have to. I don't know. My hope is to pass them down to my kids, if I ever have kids, if someone will allow me to procreate with them. It's going to be really hard to let go of as I mentioned, the Beast Wars toys and the Lego. They're just such an important part of my childhood. It'd be hard to let them go.
Well, the Lego for a long time I was attached to until my grandmother basically took the Lego away for my baby cousin who she thought like he should play with Legos and not me anymore. And I'm like, whatever. I was pretty pissed off, but
I can understand that.
yeah, but eventually, it's just so many different things happened in my life that I stopped kind of playing, and like today, it's really hard for me to like keep any stuff down, almost just because of the storage room, and rent is really expensive in Vancouver for any amount of space, right? You need to like clear up as much like space as you can, and you don't want to hoard, right?
Yeah,
so then you just get rid of it.
There's certain things I definitely want to get rid of, or rather, I've come to terms with the fact that I need to get rid of them. Once I move my stuff out of storage, there's things I know that I'm just gonna get rid of. I don't exactly know how. I want them to find a good home, but my comic book collection from I collected comics as a teenager.
You can sell that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's actually hard. I've looked into this a little. It's surprisingly hard to sell comics because they take up a lot of room, and most comic collectors aren't that interested in comics from that era. If they're really hardcore comic collectors, they want the old stuff. If they aren't hardcore comic collectors, they'll usually settle for the more space efficient and accessible trade paperbacks of the collection of stories. And so like all of my comics from the early 2000s, they're not really worth that much actually. So
well, this is an age where it's like super mass produced. It's not even rare, right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to wait like 2,000 years until like you're the only person with those comics.
There's probably some I'd want to keep, but there's boxes probably that I'd be willing to just go to a comic store and say, hey, do you want these? And they're like, no. I'm like, can you take them anyway? And then
yeah, but I'm always reluctant to throw away something like that where it's like there might be a gem in here, because like your VHSs, right? There could be a gem in there.
Maybe not. I don't know.
But for the most part, I only had junk. So when I
enough.
first moved out from living with my mom, I cleaned up. Just totally like, why am I keeping this? It just ends up in my closet, taking up room that I would use for clothes. And I don't even like play with them or anything like that. So I try to get rid of it as much as possible.
I've moved a lot in the last few years. And every time I move, I just get rid of boxes of stuff. Like just send to Valley Village.
Yeah,
it's just like, at the end of it, it's like, I don't even use this anymore. I might as well say goodbye.
Yeah, and moving is so hard on itself that you don't want to keep moving the same crap over and over and over again.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more about the ending of the film, because it's extremely emotional. I don't know about you, but when I watched it in theaters, I was emotionally devastated.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
and you know, I'm not gonna lie, watching it here again today, I kind of felt the same way. It evoked the same emotions. So this is spoiler territory, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't seen Toy Story 3, first of all, get on it, because you should.
Well, this whole show is a spoiler,
That's
so
true,
please just watch the movie before listening.
But let's talk about the incinerator scene.
Oh my god, that was one of my favorite scenes of because that was one of the scenes where I thought, I can't believe they went there, because we're so used to the toys getting out of a dire situation with something ridiculously creative.
Yeah, the whole franchise is built on the climaxes where they overcome odd after odd after odd just to get home, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna do it, we're gonna survive, we made it, yay!
Yeah.
And it looks like it's kind of going down the same path this time, and then there's a point where it's sort of like they realize they don't know what to do, and as an audience member, you're like, no, there's no way out of this.
Yeah, you're thinking about that, but then of course you forget that those little alien creatures like ran away conveniently. It was at a stage where you're literally thinking, okay, there's nothing to grab onto. You're like, keep sliding down. I mean, none of the toys can actually fly away, and like. But
I remember in the theaters looking and going like,
are they actually gonna do this, right?
Could Pixar just like? Is this how they're going to do it? Is this the way they're going to close up Toy Story? Is to just, like, destroy the toys? I think they're going to do it. I can't believe it. They're insane, but they could. I
know. I can't believe that Pixar actually got us to believe, even for a moment, that they could kill these toys off in, like, a children's movie, basically, right?
Yeah. They were going to break more hearts than the hearts that were broken when Optimus Prime died in the Transformers movie in the 80s. But I couldn't see any other way.
Yes, of course.
And that made it such an emotionally stirring scene.
So the thing that really, really made it seem real was when they looked at each other and there was no solution, and the only thing they could possibly do is hold each other's hands before their final moments, because if that's how you're going to die and you have no ideas, you may as well spend your last moment holding the people that you love the most.
And it's such a mature thing for a kids movie.
Yes,
like
super mature.
such a like dark but moving moment, that this notion of like there might be a time, kids, or you're going to die. And you're going to see it coming, and you just got to take it.
Yeah,
you just got to take it like a man.
Yeah, and the most you can do is, like, really, focus on the relationships you have between people. Because,
and value who you have with you.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Spoiler, they get out because the aliens save them, but man, like, what an emotional ride. Yeah, it's incredible. That was amazing filmmaking.
Yes.
And it's no wonder that this became one of... it was nominated for a Best Picture Oscar. Not just Best Animated Picture, but Best Picture, which is the third ever animated film to be nominated for Best Picture.
What were the first two?
First was Beauty and the Beast from 1991.
Okay, I'm not surprised.
And the next was Up. So the year before was Pixar's Up. Which, confession, I mean, Up is great, but Toy Story 3, I think, is superior. So.
Superior. Yeah, and Beauty and the Beast is just such a classic drama. And that I can see how it is, but Up, I think, was overrated. But I won't get into that.
That's another podcast, I suppose. The fact that the Pixar had me thinking that they could go down that road was incredible, an incredible feat. And then after that, really heartfelt, emotional thing where I was really feeling like I was going to tear up, and then it's compounded by their departure from Andy, where I think in theaters I did shed a single manly tear.
No, I probably shed tears. It was just so well done, and just the ending scene when he has to give away the toys and he's holding on to Woody, and he has a very childlike response when Bonnie tries to grab Woody. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Which I found very endearing, because it was just so human for him to just like, no, this is mine, like a child, right? Like, no, it's mine kind of thing. Exactly. Yeah, and that's why it was just such a touching moment. That was a really good moment for sure. His willingness to let Woody go. Beautifully portrayed on screen. Oh, I also really loved the fact that we never really know what Woody wrote on that yellow Post-it to get Andy to give the toys to Bonnie. You would assume maybe it's an address, but like... But Andy did imply that there was more to it, because he said, someone told me that you're really good with toys. Yes, exactly. Which is like, trips you out, right? And in some ways, that's one of the ways that Woody kind of broke the rules and really broke through and communicated with Andy. Yes, and that's why I found that like Toy Story 3 was such a good ending, because it was like the very first time, and I thought would be the last time, where he broke the barrier between the toy world and the human world in a very significant way. I mean, there was that time in the first movie where, Sid finally sees the toys like moving, but they were acting in a way that was like... theatrical, like, kind of like somebody, scary. And if you told anybody, somebody could dismiss it as like, dude, that was just a nightmare. Yeah, in this case, Woody actually genuinely interacted with a human in the human world. It was sort of him putting his love for Andy aside for his love of his friends. Yeah, or actually even just like putting his like... I assume every toy is living by this like code of conduct where they can never move when some like humans watching them, and they can never do something like that. Yeah. He's almost broke the rules of their world for his friends. All right, I have one question for you, the last one of the night. Should there be a Toy Story 4? It's apparently in the works. I don't know much more about it than that. But do you think that there should be one? When I first watched Toy Story 3 and it was done, I was thinking there's literally no better way to end the Toy Story. The Toy Story. Yeah, it's true, yeah. Right? Yeah. And the only reason why I would want a Toy Story 4 is because I miss them, but at the same time, I don't want them to be ruined. I don't want their image to be ruined. And the 3 Toy Story films that are out now, I mean, the writers and the producers and the actors were also adamant about making it good. Making it, like, keeping the integrity of it, right? That I can't imagine that. I'm literally wondering what could the story be in Toy Story 4 that made them all think, you know what? Actually, this can top what we just did.
Yeah, I don't know.
Unless it was just a really stupid decision and someone was like, I'm just going to push it for the money.
When it came down to it, Toy Story 3 did become the highest grossing animated film of all time. First animated film to break $1 billion worldwide. It's been beat recently by Frozen and more recently the Minions movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes.
But at the time, it was the best grossing animated film ever. You can understand from a business perspective why you'd want to make a Toy Story 4.
Yes, of course.
But
yeah.
I'm inclined to agree with you as well as not just about topping not being able to top Toy Story 3, but I think that from the story standpoint, the audience was really with Andy, and the fact that we grew up with these toys the way that Andy did, and so when Andy left them, and he said goodbye, it was like us saying goodbye to them as well.
Yes, exactly, and having a clean goodbye where we're not dissatisfied with how it ended. It's sort of like.
It's sort of like a very, very sentimental, very emotional, but it kind of felt like the right goodbye.
Exactly, the right goodbye. That means the Toy Story trilogy will always be in our hearts. We'll always remember it for what it was, and the quality of it, the emotions that it made us go through. And I was good at the end. I'm like, you know what? This is a good place for me to leave it.
I kind of believe that Pixar, that they have it in them to make another good Toy Story. Mm-hmm. I think that they can do it. I mean, I'll probably watch it and I'll probably like it. But I think that it was best to kind of leave the story where it was here.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens.
They could, blow us out of the park and really surprise us because like they did with Toy Story 3, but it's just... I guess we're just not creative enough to really think about what could be better, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so let's wrap this up. How many stars would you give it, and who would you recommend it to?
5 out of 5,
5
no
out
doubt.
of 5.
What would I recommend it to? Everyone.
You know what? I give it a full 5 as well. I recommend watching the first 2 Toy Stories first, get to know the characters, get to love the characters, and you are going to be stirred up by Toy Story 3, and I don't care how old you are, you're going to be moved.
In fact, I think if you're older, you'll have more of appreciation for it than, kids who watch it.
You know what? Quite possibly, because
Yes.
it is a story about getting older and finding purpose in life again.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much for coming and joining the show.
Yeah, I'm really glad.
And talking about Toy Story 3. Did you have a good time?
Absolutely, and I've been looking forward to reviewing Toy Story 3 this entire time. I mean, I love the first 2 movies. But this is the one.
This is the one. All
This
right.
is
Yeah,
the one.
I feel you there. Anyway, let's wrap this up. Thank you so much for joining us, which I already said, Leaminn.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you all for listening. And we are moving on.